Hello Sagittarius, and welcome to Embrace the Moon Tarot and your July 2017 reading. So we're already a little bit in July whenever I'm sitting for this reading, so this is just going to be from the second week of July through to the end. And I just have an overall sense of anticipation. I'm sitting here before I started shuffling, before I hit record, I was kind of thinking about how I felt like I was anticipating something. And I feel that there were some decisions that were made, some events that you kind of put into motion towards the end of June, beginning of July, and you're just kind of waiting to see what they render for you now. You started the process. There's nothing more that you can do at this point, whatever it may be. But you're just kind of anticipating seeing what comes of these little things that you have already initiated. So all right, I'm going to go ahead and shuffle and begin. All right. Current energy. Physical. Mental. Mental, emotional, soul or spirit, strength, potential obstacle, recent past, and potential future. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and begin with the current energy, which is the Magician. And I do get a sense that, like I said, I felt that there was some decisions that you had made that kind of began the process of something. You started something. You looked around at you. You had a good look at the resources that you had around you, and you made some decisions and you acted upon them, whatever they may be. And that is where you're currently at. You are currently feeling as though you are the magician of your world, and you can make some changes. You can make something out of seemingly nothing, even though you recognize that it wasn't nothing after all. There were some very valid tools within your tool belt, within your life, both mentally, spiritually, as well as physically, things that you had around you that you realized that you could use for whatever changes you felt like you wanted to implement. So you're feeling a bit like a magician. You're feeling a bit like you are able to make some changes and make something out of, like I said, seemingly nothing, although the power has been realizing that it was not nothing. And I feel that that is being reflected in your recent past. The recent past is the King of Coins. And I feel that you came to a realization that for some of you, I feel that there has been a dialogue that you were fed prior that you didn't have much, or you didn't have anything. And it kind of made you beforehand feel as though it was true, that you couldn't make something because you truly did feel like you had nothing. And then there was something that happened, something that changed, something that clicked mentally, that you realized that you had more than you were being led to believe that you had, and that you wanted to change this dialogue. And not only did you want to change the dialogue, but you wanted to sit on the throne of mastering your life, of creating stability that could go beyond where you were currently, but also into the future. So whatever shift this was, it really made you rethink, re-know really shifted your perception of your current life. And then as a result of that, you were able to see what you hadn't seen before. And you were able to, like I said, recognize that you did have tools, you did have some things that you needed to make some changes, to do what you needed to do to move on. So you went from recognizing that you had more than you realized that you had, and then you catapulted yourself into actually doing something with it. And I feel that you have very recently, if not are currently going through this position of beginning to make the change, but you are not only catapulting the change, but now you are waiting to see what's going to come as a result of it. And for some of you, I feel that it was I feel that some of you, it was emotionally, your emotional status, this personal epiphany that you had, realizing that you had more. It was based on your emotional status and the relationships that you have. And some of it was more physical, as far as looking at your surroundings and realizing what makes up your life currently, and what you can do about it if you want to do anything about it, and what you will. And either way, like I said, some I feel it's physical and some I feel that it was emotional. So in the emotional aspect, in the physical aspect, we have the Nine of Wands, which is about perseverance. And I feel that this is kind of a current energy, not only now regarding the changes that you started, and the energy that has created, but this is going to continue to follow into at least the third, from the 2nd to the 3rd week of July, and a bit dissipating probably towards the end of the 3rd week, into the 4th week of July. But you're going to be at this kind of a stepping stone where you created the action, you've made the motion, you've started the domino effect, but you're now at a point where you are waiting patiently, and you're persevering in the sense that it's very hard to wait, but at the same time you also realize that there's nothing more you can do right now. You've done what you've done, you've started what you've started, but that's it. Like, you have to wait until the next stepping stone or whatever it is comes to you before you can make your next play. So like I said, that's where you're at, not only currently, but this is going to kind of continue into all of the 2nd week, and partly, if not all of the 3rd week, and maybe dissipate towards the last week of July. This kind of concept of do a little bit and wait, do a little bit and wait. But there's going to be a lot of waiting and just persevering through patience, which is not always easy. Being still is very, very hard, especially when we kind of start to have a goal set in mind and we want to move forward with it. We see the potential, we see where it can go, and we feel like we can make it happen, and we can make it happen right now. So it's really hard to wait when we're supposed to wait, but I feel that that's where you're at, and you understand this. You understand the fact that you're going to do a little bit, and then you're going to wait, and then you're going to do a little bit, and you're going to wait. So you actually very fully understand this concept of little steps, baby steps, to see this new vision that you've seen as far as where you can go and where you can take yourself. Mentally, we have the Knight of Coins, which is reversed. And I feel like this is on the cusp of becoming upright. So mentally, you're kind of contemplating your current state of stability and trying to reason and analyze, and you're putting a lot of thought in where you're at currently and what that means. And when I pulled this card, I saw that it was upside down, and I was kind of like, it feels like it should be upright. So I feel for the most part, there's this sense of, there's a good deal of you that are on the cusp of kind of getting to where you have a really clear concept of the logistics of what makes a stable life. Like, so mentally, you've kind of painted a very clear picture, but you're not quite there yet. You're kind of on the cusp of it, which is why it's reversed. But I feel, like I said, I just had this moment of hesitation when I saw that it was reversed, that it should be upright. But when I thought about it, I was like, nope, it's supposed to be reversed. It came out reversed for a reason. So I feel that kind of waffling sensation that I got whenever I pulled this card is an indication that you're very close. You're very close to making this card upright. You're very close to understanding the logistics that it's going to take for you to have that sense of stability, but you're still working out the details. You're still putting in the details of that painting that's in your mind, which is part of that concept of you've seen what you wanted, you've seen the tools that you have, and you've seen where you can go with it, and you've started the procedure, but you also understand it's one step at a time, and that this process is going to be do a little and then wait for that action to hit a certain momentum before you can do a little bit more. So that's one of the reasons why this is kind of on that precipice of being reversed but almost being upright. There's still some things that you have to clarify. There's still some things that you have to understand, but you're very, very close, for the bulk of you, if not all of you, understanding what it is that you want to go from here. Emotionally, we have the King of Swords in reverse. And I feel this is more in connection with those who had that epiphany regarding wanting to be the master of your own life and your own stability, that had a connection with your emotional status. I feel this is more in tune with them, although the rest of you might get kind of a little bit of the brush strokes of this painted in your life for the month of July. But for the most part, emotionally, you've come to a wall, in a sense. There's some things that you need to work out, and I feel that for the most of you, it's yourself. It's not the other people within the relationship. It's you and yourself, and how you are getting to know yourself, and what that means as far as who you are and who you want to be in your relationships with other people. So again, it's that, you know, you're really going through this change of thought, change of perception, really realizing what you have and what you want to do with what you have, and how that's going to define who you are, and how it's going to paint this picture of stability. But as a result of it, also, we have a little bit of that trickling into your emotional life, as far as who you are, how you connect with yourself emotionally, and then what that means as far as defining how you connect with other people emotionally, what those connections are, what do they mean, and what do they mean to you, how are they valued in your mind. So there's just overall shift and change that you're going through, and I feel this is kind of a running theme in general. I feel that there's a lot of energy that's really creating a lot of people to contemplate, consider, and create shifts. And this is where you are right now. And like I said, you've seen some things, you have a better, clearer concept of who you are and what you have and what you want to do with it. You've started on it, and part of that is with your emotional life. You're kind of just taking a close look at who you are and trying to make sure that you're whole emotionally. You want to be a whole, healed person within your own self before you can really get an idea of what it is that you do and don't have to offer to other people, so that people aren't taking from you. Or rather, you're not giving more than you should be. Not so much that people take it from you, as much as you unknowingly give more than you should. And you're sort of recognizing this about yourself, and you're taking a step back and trying to take a closer look and see what that means, and what it is. What tools do you have that you're going to use to make a change, and what that means for you and your relationships as a whole. And this just kind of runs the gamut. Not just with spouses, I mean, all relationships, all connections, those connections that we have, you know, with family members, with friends who are close, with friends who aren't close, but we still have a connection with. And then, you know, people that are even extended from that within our community, who, again, we have a connection with, even if they're not close. There's still an energy exchange. And so you're really considering how you define yourself emotionally, and what that means, how that impacts the connections that you are willing to make with other people. And I feel that overall, you're not going to change a whole lot. There might be one or two things that you feel are very, very clear that need some huge shifts, but as a whole, I feel that you're just wanting to define the perimeters and the boundaries regarding what you give and what you expect. And as a whole, I feel that you feel very comfortable and confident in who you are and what you give, There's just maybe a few people that you feel you need to make sure they have a better, clear understanding regarding what it is that they have permission to accept or take from you. So spiritually, there's a little bit of a sense of a new beginning. We have Ace and Coins, and this concept of planting new seeds and creating growth and expansion spiritually, I feel, has it's kind of both a result of and the cause of this shift. You feel a closer connection, not closer, you feel a new connection. There's a new definition with how you connect to your source of higher power, and a new understanding. There's some stability that has created new groundwork for you, a new source of foundation for you. And as a result of that, it's kind of, it not only is, if you recognize it or not, it doesn't matter. It has been what has catapulted this particular shift. But even though you may have not seen it when it started, you got into a point within the month of July where you do recognize some newfound strength that you have with your connection to higher power, and how it's helping you to not only make the change, but knowing when you're supposed to be patient, knowing when you're supposed to wait for the next step, helping you to understand and connect with yourself better so that you know what it is that you do want to give and what you feel that you shouldn't be giving. So there's a sense of a new foundation where there's some new growth that's occurring, and I feel that it's kind of in this is all kind of in the background. It's not something that you are specifically focusing on. It's not something you're specifically working on. It's just kind of happening. But because it's happening and it's expanding into your life as a whole, and it's just having a positive effect, whether you recognize it completely or not. Your strength for the month is the World card, and I get a sense that this sense of stability, this recognition of wanting to maintain control and manifest your life in a direction that you want to, recognizing what you have and creating the change, and then as a result of it, this change that it's happening, you have an overall sense that the world is kind of at your fingertips, that you're sitting on top of the world. You're not so naive that you think everything is perfect, but you have a really good understanding of what makes up your world and how smooth those puzzle pieces are fitting together, and how very strengthening it is, how much power it's giving you as far as to continue manifesting this shift that you're undergoing. So you feel as though you're sitting on top of the world. Instead of feeling like the world is on your shoulders, you feel that you're sitting on top of the world, and you're able to look down and you're able to see all these things come together. You're able to kind of step back and see how your life is coming together, and just feel very empowered by it. And that's just going to continue to help feed. And I don't feel that this is something you're going to recognize. Now that you've seen this, you may recognize that that is a little bit of how you feel. But I don't feel that this is just this is a running theme or motto in your mind. It's just it's kind of in the background with the Ace of Coins. It is what it is, and it's helping you to feel empowered and move through this month. So it's just this quiet presence that's pushing you forward. Possible obstacle, we have the Six of Cups. So we feel that when we're really happy, sometimes we get a little nostalgic about happy times, and then, which is not a bad thing, but what happens sometimes is that we start to consider or reconsider some of the connections that come with that nostalgia. And when that happens, unfortunately, sometimes we may reconsider some of what we are doing and making our change, because sometimes the change means some disconnects, and it's hard to disconnect when we have an emotional attachment to certain things or certain people. So you're going to come up on moments where you are remembering feeling similar states of happiness, and what came with that, what's bonded with those particular memories. And because of that, there might be a little bit of a downside from the nostalgia of recognizing how you're changing and recognizing how that means your world is changing. And as a result of that, recognizing the presence that is no longer in your current reality as a result of the changes you're going through. And it's gonna, you know, when we get like that, it can bring on the blues, so to speak. So there's going to be a sense of that as being a possible obstacle. Just don't let it take over. Don't let it reroute the changes that you're making. There's nothing wrong with feeling these feelings and recognizing and sort of mourning the losses that we go through when we go through these changes, but also recognize that this is just a part of life, so that it doesn't consume and reroute this shift that you are kind of creating for yourself. And I feel that this is greatly tied with your possible outcome. And the possible outcome is the Seven of Swords. And like I said, when we go through those periods of feeling nostalgic and recognizing more so the presences that are no longer in our life because of the changes that have happened. And some of it's because of us, and some of it's because of the changes those people or those connections themselves may have gone through. But that means you come to a point where you're going to look at your life as a whole and kind of consider these connections and what they mean to you, and consider what it is that you have to hold dear to yourself, what you have to pull in, and what you have to let go. So you feel like as you come towards the end of July, this is probably going to be a little bit heavier, and it's going to really have you contemplate what it is that you feel you need to take with you in this change, and what it is that you have to let go, what it is that does not belong in your new sense of reality. And there's always, obviously, there's going to be a deep sadness because, like I said, we have these memories and we hold on to them because of the connections and the emotional ties that they have. So it's very hard to let go sometimes, even when we know that it's healthier to let go. So I feel that as you end the month of July, there's a potential of recognizing that there are some emotional memories that we need to hold dear, but there are aspects of it, including the connections and possibly even people, that we have to let go, that we can't allow to consume our thoughts and be as heavily present in our life as they once were. It doesn't mean we have to disconnect. I don't feel that this card represents a full and complete release. I think that there's just a recognition that the intensity of their presence, the quantity and quality of their presence is going to probably dissipate, and you're going to be considering how important it is for you to allow this to happen. And I feel that for the most of you, you are actually going to allow it to happen because you do recognize that this is healthier for the best. So like I said, I don't feel like it's a full release. I don't feel like you're completely cutting specific people out of your life, but you're recognizing that you're on two different paths, and they need to take with them what they need to take with them, and you need to take with you from your connection and your memories what you're supposed to take with you, and then leave the rest. So I feel like that's where it's going to end, and it's not a horrible ending. It's going to be kind of sad because, like I said, it is a bit of a disconnect, but it's going to be healthier. And I feel like that even though there's a bit of a sadness to the tone of that, it's just because of the connection that we have in those memories that's going to create that sadness. Because as a whole, from a broader spectrum, there's a sense of self-healing and self-loving that is the purpose of doing this, which is why it's going to make it easier to do this, letting go. So I'm going to go ahead and pull a card to be sort of a mantra to help you as you progress through the month, to see what it is, to see through what it is that you need to see through, and to release what it is you need to release. So kind of a mantra. So anytime you're coming up on any energies that kind of remind you of the reading, you can kind of remember this particular mantra to kind of help you through, to kind of give you that extra strength that you may need. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle, and we'll go from there. So the soul card that we have for you is, what do you really want? And I feel that this just kind of ties it all together beautifully, because we started with recognizing what we have and what we want, trying to manifest and externalize it, seeing the tools that you had to make it happen, using them, and just having the wisdom of knowing when to move and when to stop and be patient, and just having this overall view of creating this shift, however subtle it may or may not be. And I feel that basically you're being given this little mantra. So anytime that you consider, you're thinking about the changes that you want to make or you don't want to make, the perimeters, the boundaries, the nostalgic memories, allow yourself to think about what it is you really want deep down in your soul. What is it that you really want? So as you get consumed, if you get consumed, or when you're in moments of pondering regarding how the month is progressing, ultimately you need to just ask yourself, if you feel overwhelmed, what do you really want? The answer to that, I think, is going to not only give you the answer for moving forward, but give you the strength to move forward as well. All right, that is all I have for you, Sagittarius. I do hope you have a wonderful month. Thank you so much for allowing me to do this reading for you, and hopefully I will see you in August. Bye-bye.